There are moments in life when the room grows quiet, not because the world has silenced you, but because it has stepped back to see who you truly are. In that quiet, you discover something startling. You are still standing. No hands holding yours, no voices cheering you on, yet your heart continues its steady drum. This is not loneliness, this is revelation. Because when you learn to breathe without leaning, to rise without rescue, to believe without permission, you uncover a truth the world often forgets to teach us. Being alone does not make you weak. It introduces you to your strength. When solitude arrives, it often comes uninvited. It slips into our lives quietly, taking seats once filled with voices, laughter, and familiar footsteps. At first, we mistake it for absence. We think something is missing, someone has left, something has been taken away. But if you sit with it long enough, if you stop running from the silence, you begin to realize that solitude is not a hollow space. It is a doorway. And beyond that doorway, you finally meet yourself without interruption. In solitude, there is no performance required. No one is watching to applaud your success or judge your hesitation. You are free from explanation, free from comparison, free from the exhausting work of proving your worth. In that freedom, your true presence rises. You hear your own thoughts clearly, not diluted by opinions or expectations. You begin to recognize which dreams are truly yours and which ones you are carrying to please the world. Solitude removes the masks gently, not to shame you, but to show you who you are beneath them. It is in these quiet moments that strength begins to grow roots. Not the loud kind of strength that announces itself, but the steady kind that knows how to endure. When you learn to sit alone with your fears, your doubts, and your unanswered questions, you stop being afraid of them. You realize they do not define you. They are simply visitors passing through. Solitude teaches you that you can survive discomfort without breaking, that your heart can hold both pain and hope at the same time. Presence in solitude also sharpens your self-trust. When no one is guiding you, you learn how to listen inward. You begin to honor your instincts, to respect your boundaries, to stand by your decisions even when they are unpopular. This is where confidence is born, not from praise, but from alignment. You discover that your voice does not need an echo to be valid. It only needs truth. There is a sacred power in being able to sit alone and still feel whole. It means you are no longer dependent on noise to feel alive or approval to feel worthy. You understand that companionship is beautiful, but not necessary for your existence. You are enough in the stillness, enough in the waiting, enough in the becoming. Solitude does not shrink you. It expands you, making space for wisdom to settle and clarity to rise. And when you eventually return to the world, because you will, you do not return empty. You return grounded. You return knowing your own name, your own limits, your own light. You walk differently, speak honestly, and love without losing yourself. Because solitude did not abandon you. It introduced you to your presence. And from that presence, strength continues to grow, unshaken and unmistakably yours. There is a kind of strength the world rarely applauds. It does not raise its voice or demand attention. It does not arrive with witnesses or celebration. It is born quietly, in rooms where no one is watching, where the walls have heard more sighs than applause. In those rooms, you learn what it means to hold yourself together without an audience. You learn that strength is not always about being seen. It is about being steady when no one is looking. Quiet rooms teach patience. When there is no distraction, no escape into noise or company, you are left with time, and time has a way of revealing truth. It shows you what you have been avoiding and what you have been enduring. In that stillness, you stop rushing to become and start understanding who you already are. Strength grows here, slowly, like a muscle exercised without praise, gaining power through repetition and resolve. In silence, you face your unfinished thoughts. The doubts you buried under busyness rise to the surface, asking to be acknowledged. This can feel uncomfortable, even frightening, but this confrontation is not weakness. It is courage. It takes bravery to sit with your uncertainties without turning away. Each time you choose to stay instead of fleeing, you build inner resilience. You discover that fear loses its grip when it is met with honesty. Quiet rooms also teach self-reliance. When there is no one to consult, no one to rescue you from decision, you learn how to trust your own judgment. You learn to weigh your choices carefully, to listen deeply, and to act with intention. This trust does not appear overnight. It forms through small acts of faith in yourself, repeated until your confidence no longer depends on approval. This is strength that cannot be taken from you, because it was earned in solitude. There is a softness in this kind of strength, but do not mistake it for fragility. It is the softness of someone who has learned restraint, who understands that not every battle needs to be announced. Quiet strength knows when to speak and when to remain still. It carries dignity, not defensiveness. It does not need to dominate a room to command respect. Its presence is enough. When you leave these quiet rooms, you carry something invisible but powerful. The world may never know what you endured there, the nights you wrestled with yourself, the moments you chose growth over comfort. But that is the point. Strength shaped in silence does not seek validation. It shows itself in calm responses, in steady progress, in the ability to stand firm without explanation. And so, when life grows loud again, when opinions surround you and expectations press in, you remain anchored. You remember the quiet room where you learned who you are. You remember that your strength was not given by the crowd. It was built when you stood alone with yourself and did not fall apart. There comes a moment when you realize that applause is a habit the world taught you, not a need your soul required. For a long time, you may have measured your value by how many eyes followed your steps, how many voices echoed your name, how often your efforts were noticed. And when those eyes turned away, when the room fell silent, you wondered if you were still enough. But worth does not disappear when witnesses leave. It does not dim in the absence of approval. It waits patiently for you to recognize it without permission. Being unseen has a way of revealing truth. When no one is clapping, you discover why you keep going. Is it for validation, or is it because something inside you refuses to give up? In those moments, you learn that your purpose does not rely on recognition. Your heartbeat does not slow when no one is watching. Your breath does not pause until someone acknowledges it. Life continues within you, steady and certain, proving that your existence alone is reason enough. There is a quiet freedom in releasing the need to be witnessed. You stop editing yourself for acceptance. You stop shrinking to fit expectations or stretching to impress. You begin to live from the inside out, guided by values rather than reactions. This freedom feels unfamiliar at first, like standing without a railing. But soon you realize you were always capable of balancing on your own. You were whole even when you doubted it. When you no longer wait to be seen, you begin to see yourself clearly. You notice your resilience, the way you survived moments that went uncelebrated. You remember the nights you held yourself together without telling anyone, the choices you made quietly, the strength you carried without announcing it. Those moments mattered even if no one applauded them, especially because no one did. Wholeness is not something assembled by praise. It is not stitched together by likes, approval, or recognition. It is already present, rooted deep within you. When you accept this, comparison loses its power. You stop measuring your journey against someone else's spotlight. You understand that not every path is meant to be lit by an audience. Some paths are meant to teach you how to walk in your own light. And when recognition does come, and sometimes it will, you greet it without depending on it. You appreciate it without letting it define you, because you know now that your worth arrived with you, not after you were noticed. You are not incomplete in silence. You are not unfinished without praise. You are whole in the waiting, whole in the work, whole in the becoming. So stand where you are, even if no one is watching. Speak your truth, even if no one responds. Continue growing, even if no one applauds. Because your life does not need an audience to be meaningful. Your worth does not rise when it is witnessed. It already exists, steady, complete, and undeniably yours. When voices fade and conversations thin, something unexpected begins to happen inside you. At first, the silence feels heavy, almost accusing, as if it is asking questions you are not ready to answer. You reach for familiar sounds, old words, borrowed opinions, but they do not arrive. And in that quiet stretch of time, your soul begins to clear its throat. It realizes that if it wants to be heard, it must speak for itself. Loneliness strips away borrowed language. The phrases you learned to please others, the words you repeated because they were safe or accepted, slowly lose their power. Without an audience, there is no reason to perform. Without constant conversation, there is no need to translate yourself. What remains is your truest voice, unpolished, honest, and sometimes trembling. This is the language of your inner world, spoken not for approval, but for understanding. At first, this language may sound unfamiliar. You may not recognize the tone of your own needs or the rhythm of your own desires. You might stumble over your thoughts, unsure how to name what you feel. But loneliness is patient. It gives you time. It allows you to sit with your emotions long enough to understand them rather than escape them. Slowly, clarity replaces confusion. You begin to understand what brings you peace, what drains you, and what you can no longer tolerate. When you learn your own language, you stop needing constant translation. You no longer rely on others to explain your pain or validate your joy. You recognize your emotions as messengers, not enemies. Sadness speaks, and you listen. Hope whispers, and you protect it. Fear shows up, and instead of silencing it, you ask what it is trying to teach you. This conversation with yourself becomes sacred, shaping a deeper awareness of who you are. Knowing your own language also changes how you connect with the world. You stop oversharing out of emptiness and stop staying silent out of fear. You choose your words with intention, not urgency. You no longer speak just to be heard. You speak because what you say is true. And when others misunderstand you, it does not shake you as deeply because you understand yourself first. There is strength in this self-dialogue. It teaches you self-compassion instead of self-judgment. You learn how to comfort yourself when the world is harsh, how to encourage yourself when doubt creeps in. You become your own safe place. This does not make you distant or cold. It makes you grounded. You are no longer searching for someone else to complete your sentences or finish your thoughts. And when connection returns, as it always does, you bring this language with you. You communicate with clarity, listen with depth, and love without losing yourself. Loneliness did not weaken you. It taught you fluency in your own soul. It gave you words no one else could teach you, and strength no silence could take away. When voices fade and conversations thin, something unexpected begins to happen inside you. At first, the silence feels heavy, almost accusing, as if it is asking questions you are not ready to answer. You reach for familiar sounds, old words, borrowed opinions, but they do not arrive. And in that quiet stretch of time, your soul begins to clear its throat. It realizes that if it wants to be heard, it must speak for itself. Loneliness strips away borrowed language. The phrases you learned to please others, the words you repeated because they were safe or accepted, slowly lose their power. Without an audience, there is no reason to perform. Without constant conversation, there is no need to translate yourself. What remains is your truest voice, unpolished, honest, and sometimes trembling. This is the language of your inner world, spoken not for approval, but for understanding. At first, this language may sound unfamiliar. You may not recognize the tone of your own needs or the rhythm of your own desires. You might stumble over your thoughts, unsure how to name what you feel. But loneliness is patient. It gives you time. It allows you to sit with your emotions long enough to understand them rather than escape them. Slowly, clarity replaces confusion. You begin to understand what brings you peace, what drains you, and what you can no longer tolerate. When you learn your own language, you stop needing constant translation. You no longer rely on others to explain your pain or validate your joy. You recognize your emotions as messengers, not enemies. Sadness speaks, and you listen. Hope whispers, and you protect it. Fear shows up, and instead of silencing it, you ask what it is trying to teach you. This conversation with yourself becomes sacred, shaping a deeper awareness of who you are. Knowing your own language also changes how you connect with the world. You stop oversharing out of emptiness and stop staying silent out of fear. You choose your words with intention, not urgency. You no longer speak just to be heard. You speak because what you say is true. And when others misunderstand you, it does not shake you as deeply because you understand yourself first. There is strength in this self-dialogue. It teaches you self-compassion instead of self-judgment. You learn how to comfort yourself when the world is harsh, how to encourage yourself when doubt creeps in. You become your own safe place. This does not make you distant or cold, it makes you grounded. You are no longer searching for someone else to complete your sentences or finish your thoughts. And when connection returns, as it always does, you bring this language with you. You communicate with clarity, listen with depth, and love without losing yourself. Loneliness did not weaken you. It taught you fluency in your own soul. It gave you words no one else could teach you, and strength no silence could take away. When the storm arrives without warning and without witnesses, it tests more than your patience. It tests your foundation. There is no one rushing in with shelter, no hands reaching out to pull you through. The rain falls anyway. The wind howls anyway. And you discover that resilience is not something you declare. It is something revealed under pressure. Alone in the storm, you learn what parts of you are surface level and what parts are rooted deep enough to hold. At first, the storm feels unfair. You ask why you must endure it without comfort or company. You wonder why help seems delayed, why relief feels distant, but storms are not sent to punish, they are sent to strengthen. When no one rescues you, you are forced to dig inward. You stop scanning the horizon for saving voices and start anchoring yourself to what you already possess. Your endurance, your instincts, your will to remain standing. Roots do not grow deeper in comfort. They grow deeper when the ground is shaken, when stability is threatened, when survival demands adaptation. Each challenge you face alone presses you further into yourself. You learn how to bend without breaking, how to absorb impact without losing form. This kind of growth is invisible to the world, but it changes everything beneath the surface. Without applause, you stop performing your pain. There is no reason to exaggerate or minimize what you feel. You experience it honestly, you grieve honestly, you struggle honestly, and in that honesty, resilience becomes real. You are no longer trying to appear strong, you are becoming strong. Strength no longer needs witnesses, it needs truth. The storm also teaches you patience. There is no shortcut through it, no way to rush the process. You must endure the waiting, the uncertainty, the discomfort. This waiting teaches you how to trust time, how to trust your ability to survive moments that do not offer immediate answers. You realize that resilience is not about speed, it is about staying power. As the storm continues, something shifts. You begin to notice that you are still here, still breathing, still capable. The fear that once felt overwhelming loses some of its control. You recognize patterns, how you recover, how you adapt, how you keep moving, even when exhausted. These realizations become quiet victories, unnoticed by others, but deeply empowering to you. When the storm finally begins to loosen its grip, you do not emerge unchanged, you emerge grounded. Your roots have extended into places they never reached before. You are harder to uproot now, less shaken by future winds. What once threatened to knock you down has strengthened your connection to yourself. And the next time the sky darkens, you remember. You remember that you survived before without rescue. You remember how deep your resilience runs. You may still feel fear, but it no longer defines you. Because you know this truth now, storms faced alone do not destroy you, they deepen you, and what is deeply rooted cannot be easily moved. There are seasons when it feels like life has placed you on pause while the world moves forward without you. Others seem to advance, to be chosen, to arrive at places you once imagined for yourself. In those moments, isolation can feel like rejection, like proof that you are overlooked or forgotten. But stillness is not the same as abandonment. Sometimes what feels like delay is actually design, shaping you in ways speed never could. Preparation rarely announces itself. It does not come with clear instructions or visible rewards. It often looks like waiting, learning, unlearning, and sitting with discomfort longer than you planned. In isolation, you are not being punished, you are being taught. You are learning patience when impatience once ruled you. You are learning discernment where impulsiveness once lived. You are learning how to hold responsibility before it is placed in your hands. These lessons cannot be rushed, and they cannot be crowded. Isolation becomes a classroom where distractions are removed. Without constant noise, you are forced to focus. You begin to see patterns in your behavior, strengths you underestimated, weaknesses you ignored. You recognize habits that no longer serve you, and beliefs that no longer fit who you are becoming. This awareness can be uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Elevation without awareness collapses under pressure. Preparation makes sure you are ready to stand where you are headed. In this quiet season, your character is being refined. You are learning how to act with integrity when no one is watching. You are learning how to stay committed without external motivation. You are learning how to carry disappointment without becoming bitter. These are not small lessons. They are the foundation of lasting success, meaningful connection, and inner peace. What you are becoming matters more than where you are going. There is also a strengthening of vision that happens in isolation. Without constant influence, your goals become clearer. You stop chasing what looks impressive and start valuing what feels aligned. You understand that not every opportunity is meant for you, and not every path leads to fulfillment. This clarity protects you later, when choices multiply and distractions return. Preparation teaches you how to say no without guilt and yes without fear. At times, you may wonder if this season will ever end. Preparation can feel endless when you do not see immediate results. But growth is happening quietly, beneath the surface. Just like roots form before a tree rises, your inner structure is being built before your outer elevation appears. When the moment comes, you will not need to scramble. You will be ready. Ready to carry responsibility without losing yourself. Ready to receive opportunity without being overwhelmed by it. So, if you find yourself alone, waiting, or feeling unseen, do not assume you are falling behind. You may be exactly where you need to be. This season is not wasting you, it is shaping you. The isolation you are enduring is teaching you strength, clarity, and discipline. And when the doors open, and they will, you will step forward, not just prepared to arrive, but prepared to remain. There comes a point when you stop asking the room for permission to believe in yourself. The questions fade slowly. Am I good enough? Am I ready? Am I allowed? And in their place rises a quieter certainty. It does not shout. It does not demand agreement. It simply settles in your chest and says, I know who I am. This is self-trust, and it does not need an audience to feel real. Self-trust is built when no one is advising you, when there is no clear map, and when doubt feels closer than reassurance. In those moments, you choose to listen inward instead of outward. You choose to honor your instincts even when they tremble. You make decisions without guarantees, guided not by applause but by alignment. Each time you do this, you strengthen an inner bond that cannot be broken by opinion. Silence becomes powerful when you trust yourself. You no longer rush to explain your choices or defend your pace. You understand that clarity does not always need words. You let your actions speak, and sometimes you let your stillness speak louder. In this silence, there is no insecurity, only confidence that has matured beyond performance. Self-trust also changes how you respond to uncertainty. Instead of panicking when things do not go as planned, you adjust. You tell yourself, I will figure this out, because you always have. Past survival becomes evidence. Past resilience becomes proof. You stop doubting your ability to recover, to adapt, to rebuild. Even when you do not know the outcome, you trust the one who will face it. There will still be voices around you, opinions, doubts, advice disguised as fear. But when you trust yourself, these voices lose their authority. You listen selectively, not submissively. You take what resonates and release what does not. You no longer confuse loudness with wisdom. You understand that not everyone who speaks knows your path better than you do. Self-trust deepens your relationship with failure. Mistakes no longer define you. They instruct you. You stop seeing failure as evidence of inadequacy and start seeing it as feedback. Because you trust yourself, you trust your ability to learn, to grow, and to try again with greater awareness. This removes fear's sharpest edge. You are no longer afraid of falling. You are confident in your ability to rise. Over time, this inner confidence becomes visible, even without words. People feel it in your calm. They notice it in how you pause before responding, how you stand firm without aggression, how you move without rushing. You are not proving anything anymore. You are simply being consistent with who you are. And consistency is more convincing than charisma. When you trust yourself, being alone no longer feels empty. It feels grounded. Silence is not awkward. It is restful. You enjoy your own presence because you are no longer at war with your thoughts. You know your intentions. You know your values. You know your limits. And knowing these things makes you unshakable. This is the loudest confidence of all, the kind that does not announce itself, yet cannot be ignored. It is built quietly, sustained privately, and carried everywhere you go. When you believe in yourself, silence is no longer something to fear. It becomes your strength, your shelter, and your undeniable power. There are seasons in life when being alone feels like both a burden and a gift. The world moves around you, full of voices, laughter, and companionship, while you walk a quieter path. At first it can feel empty, even unfair, as though you are missing something vital. But seasons of solitude are not voids. They are fertile fields. In these quiet stretches, the work you do on yourself is unseen, yet it is planting seeds that will grow into the strongest parts of who you are. Endurance in solitude is not dramatic. It is not marked by applause or external recognition. It is the small, steady choices you make when no one is watching, to rise when you would rather sink, to keep going when giving up feels easier, to speak to yourself with encouragement rather than judgment. Each decision, repeated over time, becomes a layer of strength that no circumstance can erode. This is the harvest of being alone, the power that grows quietly, persistently, and without the need for acknowledgement. Alone, you face your true self. There is no one to distract you from your fears, your doubts, or your pain. You must confront them directly, and in doing so, you develop a resilience that is impossible to borrow. The challenges you endure in solitude teach patience, self-compassion, and determination. You learn how to carry your burdens without breaking, and how to navigate life with integrity, even when external validation is absent. What begins as a season of discomfort transforms into a foundation of unshakable strength. This strength is not a show of force. It is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have survived yourself. You learn that your presence alone is enough to meet your needs, that your voice matters even when unheard, that your heart can endure without constant reassurance. The season of being alone teaches you to rely on yourself, to trust your instincts, and to honor your own journey. Each trial faced in solitude becomes a stone in the foundation of the person you are becoming. The harvest is not immediate. It grows slowly, almost imperceptibly, as you navigate the rhythms of life on your own. There are moments of frustration, moments when the weight feels too heavy, moments when loneliness seems like it will last forever. Yet it is in those very moments that your strength is formed. You discover patience, resilience, and courage not in comfort, but in persistence. The longer you endure, the deeper your roots grow, the stronger you become, and the more capable you are of facing whatever comes next. When you eventually emerge from this season, you carry with you a power that cannot be borrowed, taken, or diminished. Others may see only the surface, the calm composure, the quiet confidence, but they cannot see the long hours of facing yourself, the internal victories, the battles won in silence. That is the true harvest, the strength that comes from standing alone and realizing that being alone is not a weakness, but a passage to the power you will carry forever.